Okay, so get this. You said did some pretty interesting stuff about this Andrew Huberman guy.
Yeah,
And it looks like you're really into how our brains work and how we can, like, optimize our lives, you know,
absolutely.
kind of hack things for peak performance. I got to say, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, you and everyone else, right? It's like this incredible frontier,
Totally.
this whole world of neuroscience and Huberman. He's really become a rock star.
Well, he's doing some really fascinating research,
Yeah.
especially this stuff about vision.
Uh-huh.
Like, did you know that what we see can actually impact our sleep,
Yeah,
our stress levels,
right.
even our mental health?
It's wild.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's like, who knew just looking at stuff could be so powerful?
I know, it's pretty mind-blowing. So before we get into all the details about his work,
Yeah.
can we back up a bit? For anyone who's not familiar with him, who exactly is this Andrew Huberman?
He is a neuroscientist at Stanford, leading a lab that's doing some groundbreaking work on visual neuroscience.
Okay, so he's like a real deal scientist. Oh, yeah, for sure. He's got the credentials and the research to back it up. But what I think is so cool about him is that he's not just this ivory tower academic.
Right. He's not just locked away in his lab somewhere.
Exactly. He's really passionate about making this complex science accessible to everyone.
I think that's why his podcast, the Huberman Lab podcast, is so popular.
It's huge, right?
People are really drawn to his style. I mean, he explains things in a way that you don't need a PhD to understand.
Totally. He's got this knack for breaking things down and making it relatable.
Yeah, it's like he's bridging the gap between the lab and everyday life.
Absolutely. And that's something we're really excited about here, too. You know, taking the scientific knowledge and seeing how we can actually apply it to our lives.
Well, we've got a sense of who he is and what he's about,
Hmm.
but can you tell me a little more about this visual neuroscience thing?
Yeah, sure. So basically, it's the study of how our brains process what we see.
Okay, makes sense.
But what Huberman's research is showing is that it's not just about recognizing objects or colors. Vision actually plays a huge role in regulating a whole bunch of bodily functions and influencing our overall well-being.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of like this hidden superpower we don't even realize we have.
That's so interesting. So you're saying that just by looking at stuff, we can actually impact our health.
It's pretty amazing, right?
That's a game changer.
It is, and I think that's what makes Huberman's work so important.
Okay, so where do we go from here? We've got this foundation of who he is and what visual neuroscience is all about.
Right.
But how does it all fit together? What are
Yep.
the big implications of his research?
Well, that's where things get really exciting because Huberman's not just interested in the science itself.
Right.
He's all about figuring out how we can use this knowledge to improve our lives.
Mm.
You know, things like sleep,
Okay.
stress management focus, all
Okay.
sorts of stuff that we all struggle with.
Yeah, sign me up for that.
Absolutely.
Let's dive in.
Let's do it. Okay, so you want to get into the practical stuff, right? Like how we can actually use this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's cool to know about the science,
Yeah.
but I want to know what I can do with it.
Exactly. And that's where Huberman is so good because he doesn't just stay in the theoretical realm.
Right.
He actually gives you concrete advice and tools.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those tools.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that he's big on morning routines.
Oh, yeah.
And I've heard him talk about the importance of light exposure first thing in the morning.
Absolutely. It's like one of his non-negotiables.
Okay, so why is that so important?
Well, it goes back to that circadian rhythm we were talking about.
Right, our internal clock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you expose yourself to sunlight, ideally within the first hour of waking up,
Sure.
it helps to reset that clock and signal to your body that it's daytime.
Oh, so it's like telling my brain, wake up, it's go time.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like flipping the switch on your alertness and energy levels.
So it's not just about feeling more awake.
No, no, no.
It's actually impacting my biology.
Exactly. It's aligning your internal rhythms with the natural world.
Okay, that's super interesting.
Mm.
But how much of a difference does it really make? I mean, I get sunlight every day just by walking outside.
Well, it's not just about getting some sunlight at some point during the day.
Okay,
It's about the timing and the intensity.
I see.
So getting that direct sunlight in the morning, particularly in your eyes,
Okay,
it sends a very powerful signal to your brain.
okay. So I need to like stare at the sun first thing in the morning?
No, 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 don't stare at the sun.
Okay, good point.
But just being outside, even on a cloudy day,
Okay.
for like 10, 15 minutes,
Okay.
can make a huge difference.
So like go for a walk without my sunglasses on.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
just sit outside with a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Whatever works for you.
All right. I can definitely try that.
It's a simple thing to incorporate into your routine.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what else does Huberman recommend for the morning routine?
Well, he's a big fan of combining that light exposure with some movement.
Okay, so like going for a run or something.
It could be a run, yeah. But it doesn't have to be anything super intense.
Okay.
Just getting your heart rate up for a little bit.
I see.
Like even just 10 minutes can have a big impact.
And why is that?
Well, apart from the obvious physical benefits, exercise also releases a bunch of neurochemicals in the brain.
Okay. Like endorphins.
Endorphins, dopamine, things that make you feel good and motivated.
So it's like a double whammy. You're
Yeah.
resetting your circadian rhythm with the light
Right.
and then boosting your mood and energy with the exercise.
Exactly. And it sets you up for a more productive and focused day.
I'm starting to feel more energized just thinking about it.
I know, right?
Okay. But let's be real.
Uh.
Even with the best morning routine, I still hit those afternoon slumps.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded afternoon slump.
Like my brain just feels fried.
I feel that.
Does Huberman have any tips for dealing with that?
He does, actually. And they're not what you might expect.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
One of his favorites is something called the physiological sigh.
The what?
The physiological sigh.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
It's basically a specific breathing pattern
Okay.
that helps to regulate your nervous system
I see.
and reduce stress.
So it's like a breathing hack.
Yeah, you could call it that.
And how does it work?
It's pretty simple, actually. You just take a double inhale.
Okay.
So you breathe in,
Right.
but in again,
Uh-huh.
and then let out a long exhale.
Okay, so like inhale, inhale, exhale.
Exactly. And Huberman says that doing this a few times
Okay.
can really help to shift your nervous system into a more relaxed state.
So it's like a reset button for my brain.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a quick and easy way to de-stress and refocus.
Okay, that's definitely something I can try next time I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, give it a shot.
So we've got light exposure exercise and breathing exercises.
Uh-huh.
What else does Huberman recommend for optimizing our day?
Well, he talks a lot about the importance of deliberate practice.
Deliberate practice, what's that?
It's basically the idea that we can improve any skill or ability
Okay.
through focused effort and repetition.
So like if I want to learn to play the guitar, I need to practice regularly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond just skills like that.
Oh.
Huberman applies this concept to things like focus,
Mhm.
stress management,
Mm.
even emotional regulation.
So it's like training your brain.
Exactly. And he believes that by consistently engaging in these deliberate practices,
Okay.
we can actually change the structure and function of our brains.
Wait, so you're saying that I can literally rewire my brain?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? It's this concept called neuroplasticity.
Right, I've heard of that.
And it basically means that your brain is constantly adapting and changing based on your experiences.
So the more I practice something, the stronger those neural connections become.
Exactly. And that's why Huberman is such a big proponent of things like meditation,
Okay.
mindfulness, gratitude, journaling, visualization.
Right.
All these practices that help us to cultivate specific mental states.
And he's saying that doing these things regularly can actually change my brain for the better.
Exactly. It's like building mental muscle.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
It's about strengthening those neural pathways that support the qualities you want to develop.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment.
Right.
It's about creating lasting changes in the way my brain works.
Exactly. And that's what's so powerful about Huberman's approach.
This is all starting to make so much sense.
Yeah.
Like it's giving me a whole new understanding of how my brain works and how I can actually take control of it.
And that's what's so exciting about this field. It's
Yeah.
empowering.
Totally. All right, but before we get too carried away,
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to give our listener a little break to process all this amazing information.
Yeah, I think they probably need some time to digest all this.
It's a lot to take in.
For sure.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I'm like ready to go revamp my whole life after all that. It's so fascinating how Huberman takes all this complex neuroscience
Mm-hmm.
and makes it so practical.
Yeah, totally. And I think what's really cool is how this all connects back to you and what you're interested in.
Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, you were the one who sent us all this stuff on Huberman, right?
Yeah.
So clearly you're already digging into this whole world of brain optimization and personal growth.
Yeah, I guess you could say I'm kind of obsessed with it.
And I think what's so interesting is how Huberman's work really speaks to that desire for self-improvement.
Right, like it's not just about understanding how our brains work.
Uh-huh.
It's about actually using that knowledge
Yeah.
to make positive changes.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes him so appealing to so many people.
Yeah, he's not just talking about theories. He's giving us concrete tools and strategies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're all backed by science, which is so important.
Totally. We're not just looking for quick fixes or feel-good platitudes.
Right.
We want the real deal.
Yeah, we want stuff that actually works.
And I think Huberman really delivers on that.
He does. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from his work is this idea that we have way more control over our brains and our lives than we often realize.
Yeah, that's a powerful concept.
It is, and it's not just some vague notion of positive thinking. It's about understanding the underlying mechanisms of how our brains work,
Okay.
and then using that knowledge to create specific changes.
So it's like a combination of science and self-awareness.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens.
Okay, so let's bring it all home for our listener.
Okay.
What's the one thing we want them to remember from this deep dive?
That's a good question. I think if I had to pick one thing, it would be this idea that small changes can have a big impact.
Oh, yeah, like that whole thing about how consistency is key.
Exactly. It's not about overhauling your entire life overnight.
Right.
It's about making those small adjustments to your daily routines
Okay.
and sticking with them over time.
So it's like the compound effect in action.
Totally. And Huberman talks about this a lot in his work.
Yeah, I've heard him say that even just 5 minutes of meditation a day can make a difference.
Right, or getting that morning sunlight,
Oh,
or
yeah.
taking those physiological sighs when you're feeling stressed.
It's all about those little things that add up over time.
Exactly. And that's what's so encouraging because it means that anyone can start making these changes right now.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent.
Absolutely. And that's the message I think we all need to hear.
Well said. All right. I think we've done it. We've taken a deep dive into the fascinating world of Andrew Huberman,
Yeah.
exploring his research, his practical tips, and the bigger picture of how we can use this knowledge to live better lives.
And it's just the beginning. There's so much more to explore.
Totally. So, to our listener, we encourage you to keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
You've got this.
And we'll be here to guide you along the way.
Absolutely. Until next time.
See you later.